All right, such a crowd here. Really glad to see you over here. Everybody from Arctic as well. Thanks for having me again. Actually, that's not my first time here, but first time as a presenter. Actually, last month I feel like I come to this office more often than my own one because of crowd, because of people here. Free beer, of course. So my name is Eugene and I work at Microsoft. You probably know that already because you have seen sunglasses, backpacks, etc. We don't produce them. Luxoft is actually a company who helps with FinOps, helps with DevOps, and a bit different target audience, I would say, compared to Arctic, of course. But yeah, we're quite big. We have many countries covered, and I worked there for 6.5 years, I guess. Last 4 of them in Toronto. So today I have a short, I hope, presentation and probably long discussion afterwards, which is not really technical. It's kind of experimental format which I want to try because I'm not really a strong technician. Last year, I worked more like a team lead, as a manager, and the problem which I met, it actually became like really a pain to me. And when I got asked what would like to talk about, I thought maybe I will talk about myself. I like to talk about myself, as you will see further. So let's move on. So what do we have here? I call this presentation Unstuck or Unstuck It, and we're talking about career today. So quite often we have seen many talks about career, many talks about personal development, individual development, team development, and so on. But I have found the problem which is probably not really common. Or maybe it's really common, but it's not really covered. So that's why I decided to make my own research. I decided to take a look and share my possible solutions and ask you for help, maybe, because maybe you have something better. That would be great. So now it's personal. Why is it personal? So first of all, let me quickly talk about myself. So at some point of my career, I understand that my teams, which I manage or nearby, they all contain the same seniority level. Of course, it's senior. You have probably worked in the same conditions when there are no like regular juniors, interns. Everybody's senior immediately from the hire. There is no visible growth, and people stay in the same position for years. That's not really healthy. That's the situation which I see in many teams. And maybe you do not agree anytime. Yeah, feel free to interrupt me because why I personally think it's really wrong because I kind of had this. Sorry. Oh, that's way better. Yeah. The reason I think it's wrong because there is no like visible growth. And if you start working in IT as a junior, like in 2 years you can say I'm a regular, right? If you don't change like your domain very much. But when there are seniors everywhere, I think it's a bit wrong. So, first of all, is it a problem after all, right? We have a delivery, we have smart people, they work together, deliver some products, improve infrastructure, use latest tools. Well, I think, again, about me, I thought I got like, it was called career plateau, right? When you grow, and at some point of career you realized even changing positions, changing companies, you're still senior, right? So your salary is increasing, right? Maybe your ambitions are satisfied, but something is wrong. Maybe not. Let's talk. So what I have found, I'll come to that a bit later about different types of companies, but in general, when you work in a company, at some point of career, especially if it's a big one, you have a decision. I don't love to brag, but at Microsoft, for example, at some point, automatically, after several years, after several deliveries, you have a conversation with your management. You have a conversation with HRs. When you have a choice, it's really, really trivial. Like, are you interested in engineering career or into management, into leading people, into leadership? I was born in Russia. There's no such thing like engineer in Russia. I mean, if you are an engineer, it's a shame on your family, literally. There are like even anecdotes about that. That's a pity, of course. But in good companies, in Western countries, there are options. And you can be a great engineer. You could be really strong, really deeply involved engineer. Good example would be like Cisco certifications, right? Networking. You could be your career, like for 50 years, Cisco engineer. Go deeper and deeper and deeper, getting more harder certifications, and you'll be really demanded on the market, right? And you will be respectful, you'll get good money, no problem at all, without managing 0 people. Well, in my education, it was a bit different, and I would agree, like Cisco engineers, whereas not much of them going so deeper directly into technologies, right? So that's why the point where career paths kind of split, I think it's kind of key path, and for different people it comes at a different age. And before, it's more or less clear. As a system engineer, I started my career like 20 years ago. You always have technology stack, you have technologies, you have tools, and if you go to like roadmap.sh, you see different paths. For Java developers, for C developers, for DevOps, for system engineers, for cloud engineers, it looks like this, right? So you can choose, okay, that's a key, that's a key. I want, obviously, if you're DevOps, you know that I need to know cloud, I need to know Kubernetes, containers, the infrastructure as a code. But honestly, it reminds me more like a picture from RPG. So at some point, you can decide that the path you have chosen, like Docker Swarm, maybe, someone, no? Is not perfect, and it's not ideal, right? So that's why those roadmaps are also written by people. And I honestly disagree with the previous ones. Some of them told key technologies like Go are like must-have. I don't agree. It's good, definitely, it's good to have, but not must-have. My personal opinion. Yeah. I just didn't have time to learn it, but I want to. So, what do we have here? At some point of career, I met challenge. I was already a strong engineer. I hope at least my management thinks so. And I was in the same position for like several years. It was different projects, different countries, different size of teams. But I was kind of engineering team lead, having some bureaucracy, some leadership tasks, but most it was more engineering. I had the respect in the team, but now I'm standing here, and what should I do next, right? Because I think like I'm stuck. I have reached this plateau. I can't be like a director immediately. I don't have enough time to spend for learning and get the certifications required for a good DevOps engineer, right? So I don't have time. Seriously, I don't even have CKA. Just busy with leadership stuff. So what paths have I found for myself? I just decided to make my own research, spend time for that, and share. Maybe it will be useful for you as well, because I believe most of you are also quite senior, right? So, step one. Step one will have like 5 slides, don't worry. So, obvious thing which wasn't obvious to me a long time ago. We have different directions. And in general, those 2, arms, you can't live with one arm, right? Like only hard skill, like entirely with soft skills. But it's way better, like any job with between industries, like between fintech and between like IT or and so on. It's better to have both parts of your brain developed. It sounds kind of obvious, but to me, I was always like, why do I need soft skills? Like I always hate like literature at school and so on, and public speaking. Why? I can sit and program and just get rid of me. So it appears that even if you don't need this in your like daily duties at work, and you're not managing any team, you don't have to present very often, it's still an advantage. And I think for most people, both parts are quite important. With different proportions, of course. I know very hardcore people, they don't even want to think about public speaking or, I don't know, presenting something or knowledge sharing. But they're good at their job. It's not a problem. It's good. I respect them definitely. But I found for myself that soft skills are not less important. And in the first step, I think it's really important to ask yourself first, where am I? Because what I mentioned just right now, it was more about third picture, but in general, there are different options. Let's imagine this spot as your job opportunities, right? Your current position, your responsibilities, and so on. When you're just a new starter, you have a bunch of directions to grow, lots of things to learn, and so on. You get lots of perspectives. Later, you're a good fit for the role, you're good fit, you do all the tasks you have, they are still interesting, not very challenging, and you just need to start thinking further, right? And last one, that's me, hello, when you're overgrown. Sometimes there is a picture of a person who overgrown like a chair. I think it's better because, well, I became kind of gardener here. And, you know, even biggest tree cannot grow from a small pot, right? So it's time to grow. And it's better to think on the stage 2, to plan ahead. It's really hard in existing situation, but definitely better to start to think really in advance, where possible. Maybe today's presentation will be one of those days when we started. So, next steps, it really depends on the company. Of course, there are different kinds of companies, different opportunities in each of them. I just want to have really like high-level separation of them. So, by type, we can really approximately separate by product companies and consulting companies. So I'm currently working in consulting, but I have experience in product as well. Product is when you have a company which was a kind of startup usually. They had some technology, tool, website, service, mobile application, a product. And all efforts are going to develop that product, test that product, sell that product. Awesome. Consulting is a bit different. It's usually when you come to different companies as a vendor and help them to solve the challenge. They have a problem, they have issue, they have new technology, they have issues with pipelines, with actual products. And consulting could be really different, not only IT, of course, but about processes, about HRs, and so on. I'm separating them because the approach is a little bit different. And importance, of course, to the size of companies. I'm talking about that because I worked in all of them, literally from, I don't know, like several people to like enterprises like 100,000 people plus. Personally, I think greatest area for opportunities for growth, for being visible without getting too buried into the bureaucracy, into politics and so on, would be mid-sized companies, 100 to 500 employees. Startups have their own advantages and disadvantages, pros and cons, the same for enterprises. I work in all of them, really. If you ask me which one is better, I can't tell. Really, I mix them. Really, if you take a look at my records, it's like startup, enterprise, and it's both interesting. I would say it's better to mix them to understand which work better, because people are different. Some prefer like more stability in enterprises. Some prefer more challenges in startups, depends on the age as well. So approach is slightly different. So finally, step 2. What to do? So can imagine me in my shoes. What should you do first? First question is always ask yourself. I had a big disillusion, I think, when I thought, okay, at some point I will just sit, do my work great, work overtime, deliver a lot, and at some point somebody will, good fancy hat, come to my office and say, congratulations, you're a good guy, let's move on. It's not happening automatically. And first thing you need to understand is that before getting more visibility outside, you need to go some internal visibility, right? You can call it meditation, something, right? So it's important to ask, understand, what do you really like? That's the hardest part actually from this whole presentation, because you can think, okay, obviously money, fame, I don't know, good car, etc. But you need to think, is it your thoughts, or maybe it's your parents' one, or I would leave that to a specialist, like a therapist, but it's really important. I just want to emphasize that. And simplest question you can ask, what is better for you? Like having like maybe a little bit boring, but really stable, good position, or something fun. Maybe with less salary. It's not always possible. We have this, it's really kind of very, very usual scenario in movies and so on, but yeah, it's like choosing between brain and heart, right? It's not always possible, but it's at least really important to ask that question. Second, experiment. If you don't have any area for experiments at your work, that's not really interesting, at least to me. Again, it's really subjective, but I think if you don't have any space and you just want to work on conveyor, that's good, but it's maybe a bit boring, right? So you need to have some space, maybe for extra time, for extra technologies, but it's really interesting. Job duties change. That's amazing and really refreshing experience. So obviously in our domain, if you get used to work in IT, try finance. It could be really engaging. Or try, I know, fashion. A lot of them, and the most valuable experts are usually in the between of different domains. You can try different specialty. I'm not talking about like starting knitting socks, which are also kind of interesting actually, but I mean more like from QA to developer, from full stack developer to DevOps, from DevOps to platform ops. Lots of opportunities, and it's really valuable, even if you cannot show in your like labor book if you don't have any, and tell people, look, I was a QA engineer. But in your job, having at least vision, having at least small experience from that perspective, super valuable. And at some point, you just can decide, well, that's my future. I want to do that. Why not? And I mentioned already adding some non-engineering skills to a portfolio. That's actually why I'm here. Presenting is one of them, definitely. And that's what I mentioned on the right side. There are usually quite a lot of opportunities to improve soft skills in any IT company, because if you're like surrounded by engineers, somebody should conduct interviews, right? If you're surrounded by engineers, somebody should go to a conference and speak, go to meetups, drink beer. That's easy, okay. But somebody should have project management activities, right? And when you have project management manager from IT, that's super nice. I'm not sure how lucky are you, but usually my experience, project management, were bit from different domains, and they had good skills, but without actual understanding of engineering stuff, it's not so cool. Business, consulting, RFPs, pre-sales, that's actually what I'm looking for, because I'm more into money. I'm interested in my project. I want to know how much do we earn, and I want to present that to different companies. Show, look, we have this. And it's also super useful, because usual sales, I'm not sure about you, but in our case, quite often, they're just sales guys. They can sell pens, they can sell refrigerators, they can sell laptops, they can sell DevOps. They don't care. And I've even heard an idea that the less you know about your product is better for sales. I'm not sure about that, but definitely good engineering guy in sales team is a big value for the team and the company. Of course, mentorship, buddy program we have for onboarding new joiners. It's all really valuable. At least it's worth trying, right? Because you have still safe place of work, no need to go to another company to try, you can just still try. Next step, not least important. That's why I mentioned size of company, type of the company, and so on. You need to ask your company for help. And that's not a help like, oh, I need a promotion. You know, I've seen such examples when it's just, okay, why? No. Go to your HR and talk. Said, look, I want to find our horizons. I want to learn. What do you have for me? If your company is good, I think most companies nowadays, they really value that. They have this. They are eager to keep you. They're eager for you to help, to grow. They want people to grow and stay in the company, be more professional, and learn a lot. So in big companies, usually they have lots of like internal systems, tools when you can apply. It's really automated process. It's all integrated with HR systems. If you go to HR business partner, they help you, they evaluate you. That's what happened to me recently. I went to my HRBP, said, look, probably I'm kind of in a strange position because I have a feeling that everything is okay. That's really weird because looks like it's not usually okay. So I asked, look, I want independent review of my performance. I want to know how I'm doing because I have the feeling that I'm good and great. And obviously you have tools for that. And they do. Amazing tools, Thomas assessment, 360-degree feedback. So what it ended up with me, actually I just received the results today. It was 360 degrees, which includes lots of my peers, my subordinates, my management, not even engineers, and people who I work with. And they ask anonymously their opinion about my work. And they ask my opinion about my work. That was weird because my opinion was the lowest score in this table. So probably I have an issue with self-esteem. Anyway, they have tools. Another thing definitely they could help with is about aspiration, about motivation, about how to get you more engaged. If they are, again, good company, good HRs, they definitely want you to be interested to stay, earn more, learn more, and so on. And they're always interested for you in long term. There are exceptions, of course. There are some companies and teams I know they just like have short-term project. They got like, oh, we have like 8-month involvement, and people don't even like spend time to know each other better. They don't know their own names, and it happens. But in my opinion, good company I would like to work with. It will be a long-term relationship. I would like to know people better, and we're both interested in my development, right? So that's a sign. If your company has no interest into that, to me it would be a red flag. Not necessarily I would like to leave, but anyways. Yeah, I'm already out of time, I think. Yeah, just want to pay some respects. First to my manager, actually, at Luxoft, who helped a lot. We have an individual development plan. For me, myself, we have deliveries. So it's in addition to my current work, we have some plan to learn. I'm learning in like project management university. I became more involved into press sales and so on. It was really useful, and I'm happy to work with him. Another person is Alan Williamson. He's vice president of Ops Guru. Probably heard about that company. We had really nice conversations with him, and he was really useful to help me ask me myself questions, like a good therapist, you know, to understand where I want to be, what opportunities do we have, and also some vision from the perspective from their company. Of course, Linux Recruit. Thanks a lot. Honestly, I have applied to Linux Recruit once. Say hi to Conrad next time. Yeah, it was like really intention to leave my current company, of course. Yeah, but sometimes I really like not only conducting interviews, but also participate in them as a candidate. It's really useful to understand market better, what is required, and so on. So it appeared that most required thing for that position was 5 years in Canada. I have 4. So but yeah, experience was amazing. I just don't want to tell because I was invited, because I'm kind of subjective person, but I know it a bit from inside. There are a lot of recruitment agencies. Many of them are just interested to like pass candidates as quick as possible. Have good experience. My respects. And of course, Arctic, who probably became my home office, maybe not this one, but another one. Because I come here very often, and probably next time in July somewhere else. So thanks a lot for that. Let's talk. Any questions?
How about personal brand? Could you tell me any of us, or it could be like work?
That's a tricky question. Honestly, I think it's a kind of buzzword, like honestly DevOps. But personal brand, I'm not like a fashion model, right? I'm not a politician. But all my life, from my childhood, my father told me, show yourself, don't blame your surname. So meaning you have your surname, and when people look at you, they think about the whole family, right? I would say it's not really modern, and honestly, I don't really agree with that. But that's about that, right? So it's about making your reputation as like a reliable person. That's important. And a helpful person. When people know they can come to help and you will help. That's why actually, I think because of that, at some point, I didn't participate in any, let's say, interviews on my initiative. I changed several jobs without searching for a job. I just got invited. I think it's a good sign, right? Maybe in the current market it's not possible, but at some point, just my reputation, people know me, connecting, networking, like this one, right? So there's no need to even like stand and say, hire me, hire me, hire me. I'm looking for a job. No, they just know you're a good guy, and if they have opportunity, they already have you in mind, right? It's about networking. It's a hard skill. I am an introvert, believe it or not. You need to work on that, but it's not necessarily some achievement or some label you need to have, right? So I think it's kind of too much. People talk about that too much. I think instead of talking about that, it's better to work and just dissolve that. That's what I think. It's all very, very subjective. You have all your own opinions, of course. Okay. Anyone else?
Do you hear me? Yes. All right, cool. You talked earlier about most of the companies are usually protective of their resources. They want to keep them. They don't want to see them go. But how would you cope, or how would you manage a situation where that conversation is broken between the management and the resource itself, where the growth path is like the person feels like it peaked, there is nowhere to go. There are, for example, efforts that are brought in, to help change the practice within the company, but instead of seeing it as something challenging, they see it as somebody who's just frustrated and making a lot of noise, and then like just trying to shush that person because they want to do more than what he was assigned to.
Great question. Yeah, I admit that. Because I'm really lucky. Last years I worked in great companies. I'm really appreciated. But in the past, of course, I've met such situations. So, what to do? The first thing which comes to mind: don't wait. Don't spare time. I'm not telling leave immediately, right? But take initiative. Even in worst scenarios, even like post factum, I have noticed that. Where were some opportunities in different teams? Maybe it's harder in startups because startups is usually just one team, right? But usually there are different teams, and when you talk to others, if you go, I don't know, to a pub after work, you hear something, you know something, and at some point you start to understand, okay, this place is not good, right? And I mean position, right? But usually the best way, at least less painful, is just to stay with the company and try another opportunities in different teams. Even if not necessarily they are at your specialization, right? Like move from development to QA, interesting, or I don't know, help with some HR system, or go to support. Maybe not sounds really engaging, but it's an option, right? Next step in that case, it's not working anymore. And in most cases, I know if some person came to me saying, look, I have a better job, I have found a good opportunity, I'm going to leave, actually looking for me to find a ways to increase salary, right? I think there is even statistics about that. But in most cases, that person will leave anyway. Even in great companies and great teams, it's a sign, definitely. And sometimes it's time to go. No need, and it's really hard to find a balance, right? Between like suffering and waiting and just starting active. So it's better to make it smoother, start to prepare in advance, go to a good team who will help, and just research the market. Maybe you will realize that other companies are way worse. it's all about comparison, right? You need to compare with other teams, other companies, what's happening on the market. Or in most cases, you will realize that you're underpaid. And your skills are not required here and not respected, right? So it's really individual, but I would say if you have this feeling, if the person who's in this position having this feeling, it's better to make a small research and start preparing for better opportunities. And I'm not talking about leaving immediately, but usually that means after some interviews or some discussions or research in the market, you'll find, oh, like this exam is really appreciated now. Oh, without AWS certification, nobody will even talk to you. It's not true. I mean, that's an example, right? But for example, or I mean, having CKA will improve your salary significantly. That's a sign. You start to spend more time on learning in these directions, became more valuable, and I don't know situations when people went to like twice more salary in more interesting place just because of that. So it's information. Information, even if it's bothering, if it looks bad, it's information. It's useful. You need to work on that. So maybe too long answer, but at least what I think. Okay, thanks a lot.